G'day guys, how are we doing? Welcome to Walking Boxing. It is Wednesday, February the 12th, is it? Yes, the 12th, 2025. And what a beautiful morning we've got here today. Absolutely stunning. Sun's out, it's not too hot, although it is going to be 36 degrees today, but it's actually not too bad at the moment. We'll keep it short though, because as I've said numerous times, Neil does tend to struggle. Thanks to everyone that commented on the video yesterday as far as the boxing cards goes. I had a few that were sent, and I appreciate it. Look, there's been some great cards over the journey. We could probably, I just picked out those cards yesterday because I just remember them back in the day, how good they were, and I just wanted to compare. And I've just, even after having looked at or watching the video myself yesterday, listening to myself talk, because sometimes I do critique myself, I think at least two, if not three of those cards have it over next week's Riyadh card. But who cares? Doesn't really matter. Are we comparing? Someone just asked the question, can you remember a card that's better? And as I said, I reckon there's at least two or three of those that would supersede the Riyadh card. The main event aside, but we're talking about the stacked card, not just the main event. So, and actually someone did ask me, what's the best Australian card that I've seen? It's a very, very good question. There's been, in recent years anyway, some really good cards. I would probably say the only cards you could really talk about in the last, or the ones that have occurred in the last few years when No Limit have come on the scene, probably to some extent Tasman Fighters as well. But there's probably, if I had to pick one, I reckon the best Aussie card that I can remember as far as a total card goes, apologies about the sun in the background there, as I said, it's a very sunny day, is I think it was the Tim Tszyu Tony Harrison card. I was up in Sydney, when was that? 2 years ago, I think it was. And it was talk about a stat card. I mean, the main event was good as well. I mean, at the time, Tim coming up against Tony Harrison, who former world champion, he'd beaten Charlo, and very, very accomplished fighter. American always seems to create a little bit more interest in the fight when you've got an Aussie fighting an American. And I remember what was on the undercard, that was Isaac Hardman and Rowan Murdoch, which was a really, really good matchup. Isaac actually took the fight because he couldn't get a fight anywhere else, stepped up to super middleweight to fight Rowan Murdoch. There was Kyle Mazudia and Benny Mahoney, really, really good fight. Paulo Acuso was on the card as well. Nikita Tszyu for Bo Bolbin, which was a really, really good matchup. What was the other one? Iman Katiev, the light heavyweight killer from the Cambosa stable, I should say. He was on the card as well. Was it? Oh, and Sam Goodman. Sam Goodman for TJ Doney, I think, on that card as well, from memory. So that is a really, really good card. I know they've done a few, the No Limit boys, over the last few years. Probably especially early. I think they really invested heavily early to get the name out there, and to really build a following, and they did. Arguable whether they've dropped off a little bit in the last few years, but yeah, I don't know. I think overall they've done a really good job, and they've probably adjusted their business model as they've gone. But if you can think of a better card, let me know. What else has been going on around the traps lately? Not a hell of a lot. What did I see this morning? They're talking about Inoue. Now, we all know he's going to the States or Las Vegas for his next fight against Picasso. The word is that they're actually going to put him on Cinco de Mayo weekend. And the reason they're going to do that, apparently, is they're going to try and make it, now that Canelo is not going to be part of it in Las Vegas, they're going to try and make it so that it is a celebration of boxing in Cinco de Mayo week. So not necessarily just the day now. It's going to be a celebration because, what is it, I think, is it right? The Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney double header is May the 2nd. Which is the Friday night. You would then have Inoue and Picasso on the Saturday night in Las Vegas, and then in the early hours of Sunday morning, I think, is it early morning over there? Don't know, whatever it is, but then you have Canelo and William Skull. So three big fights that weekend, not necessarily just one event, which has sort of been the case geez, for however long I can remember, 20, 25 years, I think. I'm pretty sure it was that Oscar De La Hoya was the one that started it. And then Floyd Mayweather really ran with it to, you know, massive fights, massive pay-per-view events, massive paydays. But I'm pretty sure that Oscar De La Hoya was the one that actually started the Cinco de Mayo craze. And it's hard to believe in this day and age that someone had to sort of come up with that idea, and it's only been around, what, 20, 25 years. And it's a bit like, I suppose, what did I read the other day? I was just going to say it was a little bit like the summer blockbuster, the movies back in the day, if you remember. And it's hard for us to get our heads around, but back in the day, there's no such thing as that summer blockbuster or Christmas blockbuster. The movies just came out, and then it took Jaws to be that first movie to launch in the middle of American summer and really put the wind up those beach goers at the time. But I liken it to that. Oscar started it, and then, as I said, Floyd Mayweather really ran with it. Some of those massive fights, geez, actually the first fight I ever went to in Las Vegas was actually on Cinco de Mayo weekend, and it was Manny Pacquiao and Ricky Hatton. I think I've talked about this fight numerous times, but just an unbelievable week. And I've been back there probably, well, a lot of times anyway, and it is a really, really good week. So I think it's a really good idea to not just have the one weekend, have 3 big events all over the world: Saudi Arabia, New York, and of course Las Vegas. So and then, was he back in September, isn't he? Back in Japan. Come on, Neil. Jeez, sometimes he can be a real little pain. He gets a little bee in his bonnet, and he likes to lead me all over the countryside. What else did I see there? Frank Warren has apparently, with Queensberry, signed with DAZN. Now, this has probably been on the go for some time now, or the rumour mill. Looks like it is officially going to happen. Well, it has happened. Queensberry is now, along with Matchroom and Golden Boy, part of DAZN. And they're looking apparently to do, geez, 25 to 30 shows this year. It's going to be a big year, and how good is that to add to the roster of fights, or the schedule of fights that Matchroom and Golden Boy, and we'll see what happens with Top Rank if they come over as well. But all of a sudden, we could really get that, well, definitive home of boxing on TV, DAZN. I mean, it probably is already, isn't it? But if now that Queensberry have gone there, if Top Rank goes there as well, we'll have the 4 biggest promoters in the world, all with Top Rank. It's sort of amazing how quick it's happened, hasn't it? You know, all of a sudden boxing was in a little bit of disarray, and now it is really consolidating. You know, we've almost sort of got one guy running it with his little team of soldiers underneath him, in Hearn and De La Hoya and Warren and maybe Bob Arum, all underneath him doing their thing, and he's sitting at the top sort of as the puppet master. And it's for the better, for the betterment of boxing. Just trying to see, there's a big dog coming up behind us there. We'll see if we can keep ahead of him. Sometimes they can be a little bit unpredictable. They seem friendly, and they all seem to have a problem with Neil for some reason. He doesn't give him much. I don't know whether it's a black and white thing or whatever, or he looks tough, who knows. But he tends to rub some dogs up the wrong way. But as I said, like, to have that one person in Turkey Al Sheikh sort of controlling things, some really experienced, top-notch promoters underneath him who know what they're doing their thing underneath him. They've got the platform now with DAZN. And to the point now, as we know, DAZN are now going to be part of, or they have bought part of Foxtel. So yeah, we are really, we will maybe moving to that UFC model. But it's not just one person. Well, I suppose it is one person running in Turkey Al Sheikh, but a conglomerate of promoters all banding together and locking up all the best talent, putting on all the best shows, locking up the best streaming platform. Maybe we will get that UFC model just without the Dana Whites of the world calling all the shots, and we have those top 4 or 5, or sort of 4, maybe, I think 5, but at least 4 of those major promoters all locked in, working together under the main man in Turkey Al Sheikh. So some exciting times ahead. What else did I see? I sort of mentioned it the other day that, actually just on that too, I'll backtrack. I think I might have said this before as well, but it's amazing to think, and I'm sure a lot of you people out there, guys and girls, around the same vintage of me can sort of relate to this. That back in the day of, this day and age, it's all about streaming apps, and you can pretty much access every single fight on the planet. Where back in the day, we were relying on magazines and buying videotapes from overseas and reading it in the newspaper, and it was very, very much a different time. And I've said on here before, I'm sure, that I didn't know back in the day, but we were 3 months behind. So we'd get the KO magazine or World Boxing or The Ring or whatever it was, and I didn't know, but it was 3 months behind. I thought they were all up-to-date fights. So that's how behind we were. And occasionally we would get a fight here in Australia, one of those big fights, but we would have to read about it. And here we are, I'm talking 40 years ago, by the way, but to think 40 years later, this is how much we've progressed, where every fight is just a push of the button away. Pay your subscription, or actually, you don't even have to. Well, you got to pay your subscription, but pay your pay-per-view. But these days, you pay that DAZN or Foxtel subscription, and you get a lot of those free fights, especially with DAZN. And it's amazing to think that, as I said, you can get pretty much every single fight known to man these days in one way or another. So, for the better, of course. And the last bit of news today, and look, it has been over a lot of the sites in the last few days, is still the furor over is that the word? Controversy about Iman Khalaf, and the other Taiwan boxer, the female, male, he, she, him, whatever it is, of the Olympics. Now, apparently the IBA, which is the International Amateur body. I did say the other day, by the way, I'm not sort of repeating myself, that the IBA have refused to allow the two boxers into the World Championships this year because they now have control back of these tournaments. The Olympics were taken control of by the IOC, and that's why I mentioned it the other day. But now the IBA are suing the IOC for allowing those boxers to compete and overriding the IBA. So this is not a great thing for boxing at the Olympics going into 2028. It's really not. I've got a feeling that the Olympic Committee might just say this is way too hard and they'll just scrap it. This is not good for that. So not great news there, but apparently this is what's happening. As I said, just to repeat, just so I don't look like I'm sort of confusing you with it all. So the IBA run amateur boxing, but the IOC took control of it at the Olympics and ran it themselves. Now that the IBA are back, they've banned the boxers from competing and, as I said, are now suing the IOC for allowing them to compete at the Olympics. I hope I got that right. I was just almost explaining it to myself, wasn't I? But that's what's happening now. But again, not great news for Olympic boxing. So I'll keep an eye on that one as well. But guys, I think that's going to do it today. Not a hell of a lot to talk about today, but you do have days like that, don't you? Other days there's heaps, other days there's not much. And we'll leave it at that today. I hope you have a great hump day. I'm going to try and get this guy home because he's very, very restless this morning. He's seen a few dogs. I'm not sure whether the heat's getting to him, but he is very restless and been a bit of a handful. So we're going to get him home. But guys, you have a great day and we'll catch you tomorrow.